know, Santayana said, those who forget history are doomed to repeat its mistakes. And Veterans Day is our way of remembering the sacrifices that have been made for us to enjoy the freedoms we have in the country today. So many people are forgetting that, and this day marks that for us as a reminder. For me personally, as a veteran, I owe a lot to the service, Air Force, because I joined when I was 17 years old, stayed in for 33 years, and grew up a lot of experiences I had, I owe to the Air Force for that.
Veterans Day is a day to recognize all the veterans that have served our country. And for me personally, I wear the uniform almost every day being a JRTC instructor, but I love wearing the uniform and serving my country. I've been doing it since 1987, and this is all I know as an adult. But I'm very appreciative of all the people that recognize us on this day, and it's a great day for everybody, for the United States.
Again, it is my honor not only to take part in this annual Veterans Day celebration here today in Loganville, but as mayor to welcome each of you to our great city. This event serves as a testament to the importance I believe our city displays in support of our military and our veterans. It was a display a few weeks ago as a funeral procession of Master Sergeant Mark Allen, Loganville resident, made its way through Loganville. It was truly amazing to see many of you, many residents standing proud, waving their flags, bidding a final farewell to a man who paid the ultimate price in the name of our freedom. While I know this day is about celebrating those who chose so violently to defend the ideals many of us hold clear, I want to take a moment to reflect on the passing of Master Sergeant Mark Allen. I was proud to see our city offer him a hero's welcome years ago when Master Sergeant Allen returned home from his injuries from his service overseas, and to again send him off as a hero he was when his funeral procession came through our beautiful town. The injuries that he suffered eventually led to his passing, and we certainly lost a true hero. Not only did we lose another one of our brave men and women who chose to defend our way of life by serving in the military, we also lost a Purple Heart recipient. Earlier this year, I directed my staff to begin work on having our great city become a Purple Heart city. In your program, you will see a proclamation that I will formally read at our Thursday night council meeting, that we will do our best to honor these special men and women in our community who received a Purple Heart. In your program, you will see a proclamation that I will formally read at Thursday night council meeting that will do our best to honor these special men and women who have received it. As General George Washington said, these recipients gave blood in our defense of our homeland, and we should forever be revered by his fellow countrymen. Much like the proclamation reads, I won't read it all, but I stand here today offering my great admiration and utmost gratitude for all the men and women who have served our armed forces. I stand here today, a proud veteran myself, knowing that the contributions of the men and women from Loganville area who served in the armed forces have been vital in maintaining the freedoms and the way of life we all enjoy as citizens today. Veterans is about all those who have served our great nation. Those select few who I believe have earned the title of being a hero. I hope that I stand here today before you, both heroes and your families. You know that the Loganville community is here to support you 100%. And I'm going to stop by for just a minute to recognize some of our council members up here that do support you 100%. We have our veteran Vice Mayor, Danny Ford, here with us today. We have our Councilwoman Linda Dodd, that her husband, Freddie, is also a veteran here today. We have our Councilman Jay Bolin, that's also here today. Am I missing any other council member? Oh, we got Lisa, what are you doing back there? We got Council Lady Lisa Newberry all the way in the back that also supports you 100%. We are proud of you for your service to this country, and we are honored that you joined us today at this ceremony so that we may show future generations what a hero you really are. It is not someone who wears a cape or is a standout on an athletic field. It is someone who chooses to sacrifice for the sake of others. Someone who understands that there is a price to pay for the freedoms we hold dear. And Ford put their lives on the line. To me, we should take a moment every day to thank a veteran, to pray for those currently defending our freedoms, and realize that part of what makes this great country great are both the soldier and a veteran. Now it is this time, I would like to introduce a great friend of mine, member of this post, Ralph Mullins, who retired from, that's right, who retired from the Georgia Department of Veterans Service, and is a 32-year veteran of the U.S. Army, retiring as a Chief Warrant 4. He graduated from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, sorry about that, Aeronautical University, and holds a Bachelor of Professional in Aeronautics degree. Mr. Mullins flew rotary wing aircraft for 25 of his 32 years. It's amazing, amazing, incredible. Including the AH-1G Cobra in Vietnam, the UH-60 Black Hawk, as well as the world's greatest attack helicopter, the AH-64 Apache. I'm going to say something real quick. My son right now, when I see Ralph, I see my oldest son, 23-year-old. My son right now is following on this man's footsteps. He is currently right now in Fort Rucker, Warrant Officer 1, going through helicopter school, just like this great man is. Jesse Martinez, we love you. We know you're hard at work at Fort Rucker. And happy Veterans Day, and we love you, and we support you. He and his wife, Annelies, have lived in Georgia for almost 3 decades. The last 15 in Loganville. His awards and decorations include Legion of Merit, Bronze Star Medal, 2 Meritorious Service Medals, and the Master Army Aviator Badge. Mr. Mullins is a proud member of St. Oliver Plunkett Catholic Church and the American Legion, our great American Legion, Post 233. He was instrumental in establishing the missing man table on a permanent basis here in Post 233 during the recent renovations. Please help. Big Logan, again, a big Loganville welcome. Welcome, Mr. Ralph Mullins.
Thank you, Mayor. And as most aviators will call Fort Rucker, it's commonly referred to as Mother Rucker. Today I want to briefly talk about the POW and MIA flag origin. Then an overview of an Army aviator that was assigned to the same unit I was, stationed in Vietnam, and would ultimately be shot down and become America's last POW in Vietnam. But first, a brief overview of the POW MIA flag. When I decided to undertake this, I thought, you know, I just saw the flag, but how did it come about? Back in 1971, Miss Mary Hoff, whose husband was an MIA in Vietnam, was instrumental in getting the flag established. She had read a newspaper article from a Jacksonville, Florida newspaper about the plight of POWs and MIAs. She contacted Mr. Norman Rifkes, who was the vice president of Annan and Company, and found him very sympathetic to this POW issue. He agreed to help develop the flag and assigned that task to Mr. Newt Heisley, a former World War II pilot who sketched several designs based upon his own wartime memories. The flag that was chosen depicts the silhouette of a man's head, the barbed wire behind him, and also the guard tower. Under that design are the words, "You are not forgotten." Finally, in 1970, the 101st Congress officially recognized the POW MIA flag. There are 6 occasions for displaying this flag, and those are the Armed Forces Day, Memorial Day, Flag Day, Independence Day, and the National POW MIA Recognition Day, which is the 3rd Friday in September. And of course, Veterans Day. Protocol for flying this flag can be found at www.miafamilies.org. There are copies of the entire history of this flag located on the table next to the hallway leading to the restroom facilities. Now I want to share with you the experiences of Captain William Reeder, who after completing his Cobra transition returned to Vietnam for his 2nd tour. He was assigned to the 361st Combat Escort Company, call sign Pink Panther, in December 1971. The slide that's being depicted shows you the events of May 1972 in which Captain Reeder was shot down. And this was centered around the hamlet of Con Tum and a Vietnamese fire base named Ben Het, which had 350 Vietnamese soldiers and 2 American advisors. Captain Reeder and his co-pilot, Warrant Officer Tim Conroy, was on their 3rd mission that day. They were told to contact a Huey en route and go to Ben Head. After departing Kon Tum, he witnessed a South Vietnamese fighter plane being shot down and the pilot bailing out. He requested permission 3 times to cover the extraction of that gentleman, but was denied each time. So he proceeded to Ben Head and established radio contact with the Huey. The pilot of the Huey told him that they were making an emergency ammunition resupply and needed Cobra gun cover to accomplish this. At Ben Head, during the resupply, they only received small arms fire. However, upon departure of the area, he received intense anti-aircraft fire. Captain Reeder indicated that the small arms fire that he had normally received sounded like the Jiffy Pop popcorn as it was popping. However, this time the rounds hitting his helicopter sounded like a jackhammer. Very quickly he lost control of his tail rotor, and as such, the helicopter started spinning. After a few rotations, they hit the ground hard, bounced, and landed upright. During the hard landing, Captain Reeder sustained a major back injury and burns on his neck. He told his co-pilot to get out of the aircraft because it was on fire. And with the co-pilot's door being located on the opposite side of the aircraft, he didn't know whether or not his co-pilot had egressed out of the aircraft. The next thing he realized, he was several yards away from the crash site, watching his own ammunition explode. Not knowing where his co-pilot was or the enemy soldiers were, he decided to try and evade the enemy and did so for 3 days before being captured. Captain Reeder said that at the time the NBA soldiers pointed their weapons at him and he became a POW was the most lonely, depressing feeling that he has ever experienced in his life. They took his boots away from him and socks, and for the next 3 days he was interrogated. He remembers his last interrogation when they had tied his arms behind his back with ropes. This seemed to be a very popular way. And as the interrogation continued, they tightened the ropes finally to the point where both of his shoulders dislocated. He said it was the most excruciating pain he has ever suffered in his life. On the 4th day, he and 25 other POWs, which included 1 other American and 24 South Vietnamese soldiers, were moved to their first camp. Each POW was given a small bag of rice, which became their daily rations. Upon arrival at the camp, they were placed in a bamboo structure about 4 feet high, 4 feet wide, and 30 feet long. In the middle was a long tree trunk with notches cut out, so they placed their feet in those notches and were unable to move around. They remained at this camp for a few days before moving on. After several days of travel by foot, he noticed that some of the POWs that were marching with him would fall out. When he did, all he heard was a rifle shot. They shot the POW and left him to die. He realized that if he could make it to the next way station, his chances of survival increased. On the 4th day, he began having difficulty in keeping up with the group. He felt as though he could not continue, and at that point, the South Vietnamese POW picked him up and carried him to the next waypoint. He overheard the South Vietnamese POW indicate that he had been shot down near Kon Tum. He was the pilot that Captain Reeder wanted to cover the extraction on. He was kept at the next camp for several days prior to joining up with another group. Prior to departing, they were told that the next camp was 11 days and things were going to be better for him. Little did he know that the final destination was Hanoi, which took 3 months, a distance of approximately 350 miles. He indicated that when he arrived in Hanoi and was placed in his cell, he sat down and wept. He wept knowing that his marches were over. He was repatriated after 320 days of captivity. His experiences as a POW is only one of many instances that reflect a symbol such as the POW and MIA flag. His memoir reinforces the theme of courage, sacrifice, undying faith, strength of family, love of country, loyalty among his comrades, and finally, a realization of how precious is the freedom all too often taken for granted. His book, Through the Valley, goes into great detail of his experiences during this difficult time in his life. Two more quick things. Captain Reeder's co-pilot was rescued by helicopter the same day they were shot down. However, upon arrival at the hospital in Pleiku, he was pronounced dead. Lastly, it took Captain Reeder 20 years to finally locate that South Vietnamese officer who picked him up and carried him to the next waypoint. It was a tremendous reunion. Thank you for your attention.